All right, good morning, everyone. May I ask that those who are in the media center, if you would be able to take your seats. We'll begin in a few minutes. The Prime Minister, the Most Honourable Andrew Holness, is almost here. So we ask that those internally settle, those online. Please stand by. We'll begin momentarily. Ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister, Most Honourable Andrew Holness. Good morning, everyone. It's now 10:20. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Media Center here at the Office of the Prime Minister in Kingston, Jamaica, on a beautiful Wednesday morning, the final day of September 2020. Today, we have the virtual launch of REDI 2 as the government continues to build capacity in our communities. With us here this morning, our Prime Minister, the Most Honourable Andrew Holness, members of the Cabinet, the Honourable Edmund Bartlett, CD, Minister of Tourism, the Honourable Desmond McKenzie, CD, Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, the Honourable Floyd Green, Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, permanent secretaries who are joining us virtually, Mr. Ozan Sevimli, the resident representative of Jamaica, the World Bank, Dr. Wayne Henry, the chairman of the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, Mr. Omar Sweeney, the managing director of the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, and online, virtually, on Zoom, we have representatives of public and private sector entities and certainly members of the media. Thank you so much to all those who are joining us virtually in Jamaica and certainly across the world. To start our proceedings, I ask everyone who is here at the Media Center with us and certainly those online to stand for the playing of the national anthem of Jamaica. Thank you so much, everyone. You may be seated. Well, as I said, this morning is a very exciting day. Of course, we are continuing our programs within government, acknowledging all the COVID-19 protocols, and so we really do have a very skeleton team here with us this morning internally in the Media Center, and certainly most are online. We have about 80 persons or so joining us on the Zoom platform, and certainly hundreds on the social media platforms that we're streaming on. Now, building on the experience of results from REDI 1, the REDI 2 project will focus on strengthening value chains and the development of tourism clusters with an emphasis on linkages between producers, service providers, and buyers to improve economies of scale for small agricultural tourism enterprises and to mainstream climate resilience. That sounds like a lot, right? So to break it down, and certainly to welcome everyone online, we have the chairman of the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, Dr. Wayne Henry, to explain more and bring greetings. Dr. Henry.
Moderator, Ms. Naomi Francis, of the Office of the Prime Minister, the Most Honourable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Honourable Edmund Bartlett, Minister of Tourism, the Honourable Desmond McKenzie, Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, the Honourable Floyd Green, Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, Mrs. Audrey Sewell, Permanent Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister, Mr. Ozan Sevimli, the Resident Representative for the World Bank in Jamaica, Mr. Omar Sweeney, Managing Director for the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JSIF, members of the board of JSIF joining us online, members of the JSIF team, all the JSIF team joining us virtually, stakeholders in the agriculture and tourism sectors joining us virtually, and representatives of the Jamaica Information Service who are facilitating the live streaming across the globe, and members of the mainstream media joining us virtually. Good morning. Well, you would have heard of criminal elements targeting the police station on the weekend, stealing all the tires from the vehicles at the police station. All the tires were stolen. Minister Chang, Minister of National Security, told the media today that the police are now working tirelessly to apprehend the suspects. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to the official launch of the second phase of the Rural Economic Development Initiative. It took a while. But it's my pleasure to welcome you this morning to the second phase of REDI, the Rural Economic Development Initiative REDI 2, a project of the Government of Jamaica aimed at stimulating rural development across Jamaica, which is being implemented by the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JSIF, and financed by the World Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, having successfully completed the first phase of the REDI project over 3 years ago, we look forward to the beginning of this new phase and the opportunity to provide new sustainable deliverables. Today, we'd like to recap key achievements that transformed a number of lives across rural communities within the sectors of agriculture and tourism during the 7-year period of implementation. Under the first phase of REDI, approximately 22,000 rural residents benefited from the project's interventions, and approximately 1,300 persons gained direct employment. Additionally, several public sector entities received institutional strengthening and capacity building to support both sectors. Improving Jamaica's food security and developing the agriculture sector is paramount to economic development. Through effective planning, farmers adopted several innovative production methods, such as the integration of climate-smart technologies to include water harvesting and drip irrigation systems, greenhouse vegetable crop production, and soil conservation techniques. Community-based tourism also plays a significant role in reviving the economy. And through this initiative, we have been successful in enhancing market access, craft development, product development, as well as cultural heritage experiences. With the looming threat of the novel coronavirus global pandemic, the REDI 2 project is poised to bolster both the agriculture and tourism sectors in Jamaica, representing a massive increase of 160% in financing above the REDI 1 initial investment. In closing, please join me in wishing the JSIF team and our partner stakeholders a successful execution of the REDI 2 project. Again, welcome. Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wayne Henry, the chairman of the board of JSIF. And certainly for those who are online, it may have taken you a little while to just grab on to that piece of humor that Dr. Henry started with, but certainly it was a good icebreaker, sir, and thank you so much for telling us about this very important program. REDI 1 certainly was a success, and the Rural Economic Development Initiative, yes, REDI 2, certainly we expect that it will be equally beneficial for all those who participate. A big part of this project has to do with partnerships, and so let's now hear from Mr. Ozan Sevimli, the resident representative to Jamaica from the World Bank, who will tell us about his role here today. Mr. Sevimli.
Thank you, Ms. Francis. Good morning. The Most Honourable Prime Minister, it's always good to see you. Honourable Edmund Bartlett, Minister of Tourism. Honourable Desmond McKenzie, Minister of Local Government and Rural Development. Honourable Floyd Green, Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, Dr. Wayne Henry, Chairman of Jamaica Social Investment Fund, Mr. Omar Sweeney, Managing Director of Jamaica Social Investment Fund. Good morning. It's a privilege to be here for me as we are launching the second phase of our Rural Economic Development Initiative. Here what we're trying to do is we're looking at tourism, a clear driver of the economy for Jamaica, and we're trying to wake a sleeping giant, agriculture, and connect them to even have broader and stronger impact on Jamaica's economy and on the population, on the people of Jamaica. As Dr. Wayne Henry mentioned, I don't want to repeat what REDI 1 has done, but it has been a success story. And we invested 15 million, about 15 to 17 million in that, and we reached 22,000 farm and tourism operators, and who were able to use new practices, innovations, increase their productivity, and make a living. We did some infrastructure that is all connecting to the markets, which is something that we want to actually scale up with REDI 2. And one of the farmers that we met under REDI 1 is a woman, a female farmer who was unemployed before. Her name is Louise, who is one of the 172 greenhouse operators now, and is saying that she has now a living and can send her children to school, which she was not able to do before. That's very important to us. This is exactly what we want to do. We want to increase livelihoods. We want to increase economic opportunities for the rural population and connect with the driver of Jamaica's economy, the tourism sector. But this pandemic has shown us that even the driver of economy, the tourism sector, undoubtedly also needs more resilience, more diversification, and more inclusive. And community tourism is one of the ways to do it. And I had conversations with the minister, with the Honourable Minister on this already, and I'm very glad that he has already a vision for it and is making the right investments. And with REDI 2, we're hoping that we can advance community tourism. I was at Treasure Beach actually a couple of months ago over the summer in St. Elizabeth, and I saw the potential of community tourism. I was running on the beach, just back and forth, just for my morning run, and a local gentleman approached me and said, "Hey, you run?" I said, "Yes, I do run, and I would love to run around, but I don't know the area." He said, "Look, next morning, 8 o'clock, we run together." And we went, ran through the village. I greeted neighbors. I saw farmers. I climbed up hills that were tough to climb, but I could see views that I wouldn't have seen otherwise. And then afterwards, we had a nice Jamaican coffee, hot, and beautiful. We talked about life and how it is. And that's for me, tourism, but community tourism. And there's so much potential in Jamaica to do more of that. That's a business. I would love to go there and pay for that kind of a service, for that experience. And research shows that the profile of the tourist is changing, especially with the pandemic. So I think with REDI 2, we can make some advancements on that. Having an authentic and a real experience of Jamaica, which is much more inclusive than other models, I think. So I think I'm very excited about that aspect of our REDI 2 engagement. But we have also, it's not only, we talk about climate smart agriculture quite a bit, but the pandemic has also shown us that we also have to be shock smart, this emergency has shown us, and community tourism does that also for us. Maybe I can also look at it from the macroeconomic perspective of this, connecting tourism and the rural economy and agriculture has not only the livelihoods perspective, as I mentioned, for Louise, but also is a macroeconomic driver. I have now experienced in my little more than a year in Jamaica how closely people watch the exchange rate, and I've checked the numbers last night, and we spent $1 billion US for food imports every year. And that requires foreign exchange, and that is a high food import bill. I think having, and from the numbers that I see, 60% of the food bill, the imports, go to hotels and restaurants and other institutions. And I think we can make headways. We don't need to import that much if we can connect our real economy, wake the sleeping giant, and supply the hotels and the restaurants and other institutions locally. So it's not only a livelihood issue, which of course is at the heart of the World Bank's core mandate, but it's also at the core mandate of the World Bank to have a macro fiscal stability and having a strong agricultural productivity, good supply chains that can supply the local needs. It's food security, it's about livelihoods, but it's also about macroeconomic stability. So for us, this is a great opportunity to be partnering with you. And one thing that I want to say in closing very, very shortly, it's 40 million. We made a dent, I think, with the REDI 1, and now we can make a difference. I'm hoping that we can do the right things, the right investments, connect the dots, and with that, I think we will make a difference. And often we talk about donor funding and so on, but this is not donor funding. This is under the leadership of the Prime Minister. This is a decision the Jamaican government made that there will be a loan for this kind of an initiative. It is Jamaica's money. It's not the World Bank finance. We are financing, but it's not a donor money. So this is a loan that Jamaica has decided to take on for this kind of initiative, and we need to make it work. And what REDI 1 has shown, we know how it works. We're scaling it up, and we're expanding it, and we learned from some mistakes, and we're adapting to it. And our independent evaluation group actually looked at that project. They evaluated this project very recently, and they showed that we have used best practice. It was a highly satisfactory project. So it's now to take that, learn from it, and expand it for Jamaica. So privilege for me to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sevimli, certainly sharing your perspectives and your experiences in Jamaica as well. And I can tell you that the Jamaican warmth and the authentic Jamaican experience is exactly what you described. And certainly all you have to do is look at those on our Zoom, for example, those warm faces, authentically Jamaican. And certainly there's no other smile like a Jamaican smile. You know, JSIF as well, certainly has been doing a fantastic job in building capacity in several communities across Jamaica. It's a critical arm of, I think, what the Prime Minister has been doing to ensure that we build capacity in communities and improve our communities. And one of the examples certainly has been the zones of special operations in terms of even looking at behavior change and what we do in our communities and building just a change of experience and outcomes for our people. The man who is leading JSIF is Mr. Omar Sweeney, the Managing Director, who we'll hear from right now.
Most Honourable Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, to Cabinet Minister Ed Bartlett, Minister of Tourism, to the Honourable Desmond McKenzie, Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, to the Honourable Floyd Green, Minister of Agriculture, to my own chairman, Dr. Wayne Henry, and to Ozan Sevimli of the World Bank, resident representatives, distinguished members in the audience and here with us this morning. Good morning. And certainly it is my pleasure to be here this morning. It's an exciting morning to be here. And just to say that since 1996, when JSIF has traversed all parts of Jamaica, across the island, providing investments towards poverty alleviation, I would say to you that the resounding cry from communities and community members is the desire for a sustainable livelihood. And in 2010, we were able to make a dent by providing the investments through REDI 1. And you've heard, for instance, the many successes and benefits that REDI 1 has brought. And Most Honourable Prime Minister, REDI 1 was a program that was in place when you took office in 2016. And I have to say that it was after the assessment of REDI 1 that you made the specific request that this project should be expanded into a national program. So it is with that that I am proud to be here this morning to be a part of the launch of REDI 2. And I'm proud because, based on the scale, $40 million, based on the geographic reference, which would be island-wide, we know that REDI 2 will benefit more than 100 micro and small business enterprises. Clusters of farmers, clusters of tourism, community tourism enterprises, clusters of business people who at this time during the pandemic will need the type of support to survive. They will need the type of support to emerge under a new normal. And so this program, which became effective in March and which we have been raising significant awareness, is something that we've seen literally on the Zoom, in the live streaming, interest in the thousands. I mean, the hundreds of thousands of persons are looking towards this program to solve some of the problems that they face today. Now, REDI 2, as was said by the speaker before, is a strategic investment of the government. It's an investment in ensuring that operators and micro businesses in rural areas can continue to operate. One of the greatest things we have to fight, as I welcome the new Ministry of Rural Development, is this matter of rural to urban drift. The moderator spoke about the ZOSOs and some of the work we've done in urban communities. One of the root cause analyses we know is that you have to stop rural to urban drift. And how you stop rural to urban drift is to provide the strategic investments in rural areas where persons, young people that this project will target, can earn and earn sustainably and earn well where they are. And so what we want to see is the Jamaica develop as a country, not as Kingston or not as Montego Bay. We want Jamaica to develop. And that's where a focus on rural development, a focus on agriculture, a focus on community tourism that this project will bring will take us there. And so as JSIF, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the government of Jamaica for continuing to provide the support to our work. I want to say thank you to the World Bank that continues to provide incredible technical, not the resources I'm talking about, incredible technical support and backstopping to our programs. That's what brings international global practice into Jamaica. It's the experiences from the professionals, for example, at the World Bank. And I really look forward now. We had some discussions earlier with the Minister of Rural Development and the Minister of Agriculture, and well, Minister Bartlett is always on my phone. So we talk a lot about that, and it is really with that we look forward now to embracing. Only to say that after the launch today, the first set of proposals for support will be due in November. So I'm encouraging the persons out there to pay keen attention to the media, pay keen attention to the Jamaica Information Service and our ministries, our supporting ministries of Agriculture through RADA, through TPDCO at the Ministry of Tourism, through the SDC, through the Ministry of Local Government, because they will be your government counterparts to connect you into this type of support program, and JSIF, of course. And so once again, I want to say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity for us to implement this project, and we will do our best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sweeney, for those words. You know, when you spoke, I got the very clear vision of what you're speaking about, you know, and I could liken it to seeds. You know, seeds do take time to grow and blossom and become flowers and trees. And a big part of what JSIF does is not what you see today, but certainly in the future. We have to always remember that strategic approaches take time to be seen, you know, to be shown in best practices. So growth, change, and development and building capacity does take time, and certainly we're seeing some of the fruits of those endeavors today. And certainly with the launch of REDI 2, we're building more capacity for our people. Well, recently, a young man was elevated to the post of minister, full cabinet minister. He's energetic. he brings with him impact, innovation, creativity, and certainly diligence, having served as a Minister of State. And so, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the Honourable Floyd Green, MP, Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, certainly to launch here, REDI 2 as well, and to ensure that young people are certainly part of the discussion going forward in terms of agriculture and agricultural development. Minister Green.
Prime Minister, the Most Honourable Andrew Holness, the Honourable Desmond McKenzie, Minister of Local Government, the Honourable Ed Bartlett, Minister of Tourism, Mr. Ozan Sevimli, the World Bank's resident representative, Dr. Wade Henry, Chairman of JSIF, and of course, Mr. Sweeney, our CEO. I am very, very happy and pleased to be here this morning at the launch of the second phase of the Rural Economic Development Initiative, REDI 2, which seeks under its components to carry out climate-smart, resilient agriculture and community tourism activities and to strengthen the institution and capacity building across agriculture and tourism. This is a good day for agriculture. This is a good day for tourism. And firstly, I'd really like to thank the World Bank team, the JSIF team. As you have heard, this is a $42 million United States loan that the government of Jamaica has decided to take to help our agriculture and tourism sector. A significant investment that I think is quite timely, especially with all that is happening right now in the world. The reality is that agriculture and fisheries has to be the driver of our economic recovery program. We have to have a strong, robust, resilient agriculture sector. And the only way we can do that is if we're able to scale up our small farmers, scale up our fisher folk, and ensure that they're operating with cutting-edge technology, ensure that they're taking climate-smart practices to their agriculture and fisheries sector, and ensure that there are the appropriate linkages so that they have the markets both internally in relation to tourism and externally in relation to fulfilling that huge global demand for Jamaican products. So we at the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries are determined and dedicated to work through this REDI 2 program, to work with JSIF, to build upon the foundations that we have set with REDI 1. And to be honest, it's something that we're very proud of in relation to the work that was done in REDI 1. In cluster greenhouse water harvesting technology brought to farmers in places like St. Anne, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, that are still intact and that are still ensuring that we're producing even in this time of great uncertainty. Significant training for fisherfolk to ensure that they take business-oriented approach, that they still utilize now, especially in this time of great uncertainty. We want to build upon those successes. We want to ensure that we put more infrastructure on the ground to support our farmers and fishermen. PM, I assure you that as JSIF works, the ministry through our agencies will drive this project forward. And I want to encourage those listening, our farmers, fishermen, to think big, to craft great big proposals that can move your communities forward. I want you to think, throw out the box. Don't think about the box. We know the challenges. We know what is needed. And I can tell you and I can assure you, the team at JSIF and at agencies like RADA are willing to work with you to put those proposals to paper and to handhold you through the process. You know, one of the realities of COVID-19 is that we saw a tremendous dislocation to the market for a lot of our agricultural produce. But one of the great realizations, Minister Bartlett, I think people for the first time recognize how much we do, in fact, produce and send into our tourism sector. It wasn't always the case. But because of some of the linkages created through REDI 1, a lot of our farmers now used to wholly and solely supply the tourism sector. And we had to intervene as a government to find new markets for those produce. In fact, through our buyback program, in which the government put $240 million to help our farmers get through this COVID-19 period, we were able to move 7 million pounds of produce, impacting 3,769 farmers from across 11 parishes. The good news is that having moved some of those produce, new markets have emerged. We now have home deliveries of agricultural produce, and we believe that those markets will be maintained after COVID-19. So what we have to do is drive up production to ensure that when tourism gets back, that we have sufficient production to do the level of import substitution that is needed. So I say to my farmers and fishermen, please contact RADA. We're here to help. Contact your National Fisheries Authority. If you have these ideas, we want to see projects around storage. We want to see projects around distribution. We want to see projects around aquaculture, shrimp farming. We want to see those projects. Our vision is to have a Jamaica that is food secure, a Jamaica that can feed itself regardless of any external shock. And we know we have the food heroes. We have the workers who are willing to put in the work to get it done. We at the ministry have to provide the technical support to ensure that the opportunities are taken advantage of. So this is a good day for agriculture. This is a good day for fisheries. More importantly, this is a good day for Jamaica. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Minister Green, for those words. 7 million pounds of produce moved within this COVID period for Jamaica. It shows certainly our level of innovation, our ingenuity, and certainly our resilience as a people, and the sector, though a sleeping giant, will certainly rise to the occasion. You know, a big part of the linkage, and it was certainly seen by the Prime Minister, of agriculture is with rural development. Previously, it was the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development. Communities play a major role, but rural development is so critical to ensuring that there is real development also taking place. And the man who leads that charge in the Ministry of Local Government and Rural, Development and Urban Renewal is certainly the Minister of Local Government, the Honourable Desmond McKenzie, who will speak with us now.
Thank you, Naomi. Most Honourable Prime Minister, colleague Ministers Bartlett and Green, resident representative of the World Bank, chairman of JSIF, Dr. Wayne Henry, and my good friend and hard-working public servant, Mr. Omar Sweeney. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development is pleased to endorse Phase 2 of this program, REDI 2. The truth is, while rural development is a new addition to the Ministry of Local Government's portfolio, the work done by the ministry in the last administration, as well as agencies such as the Social Development Commission, has given us some key insight into the undisputed value of this initiative that we are launching here this morning. Existing and potential small, medium-sized business enterprises will benefit significantly from this through the various community involvement. We fully understand the critical need for our rural communities to be fully functional and be a part of the prospect of the overall improvement of the country's economy. The similarities between many of the targets and the initiatives and programs of the SDC, especially through the local economic development support program, are very strong. Through this program, the SDC continue to identify and train people at the community level in skills and culture to transform them into new and to embody this new set of young entrepreneurs into the business world. In the last financial year, over 150 business capacity building sessions were held with the local economic initiative and the civil society organizations across 11 parishes. Business models and business project proposals were developed, and some 90 business fairs were targeted, allowing young, aspiring business people the opportunity to showcase and to promote their products and service. Since March this year, when COVID intervened, the agency, that's the SDC, changed its concept about marketing, and they created special community market and business fairs across the country where farmers and the local business community displayed and sell their goods and services. These fairs, which has been held island-wide in spacious surroundings, using many facilities operated by government and private sector, was very successful. Between June and the end of August, 14 of these special fairs were held and generated over some $30 million in revenues to small business community leaders. And this increase was a direct involvement of the initiatives by the SDC working with JSIF in allowing these young business people to realize their dream. The programs such as this initiative is vital to the focus of government to improve rural productivity, to improve the real and perceived quality of rural life, and to help to reduce, as has been mentioned by Omar and Floyd, the urban drift that we are seeing taking place. While the tourism and agriculture are the headliners in this project, it doesn't necessarily mean that local government and rural development is out, because we provide the bodies through the training. So it is a collective response, Prime Minister, from 3 key ministries within the administration. We are looking forward to this initiative. It is an initiative that is critical, as I said before, in maintaining urban development. Approximately 44% of the country's population lives in rural Jamaica. So it tells you how significant this program is. So this morning, as we launch this initiative, I want to use the opportunity to extend to the World Bank our thanks and appreciation for the continuous effort of this organization in helping to strengthen the capacity of rural development. In our early discussion with Omar this morning, we spoke about what is next, looking at improving rural development. The demands in rural Jamaica consist of roads, water, and light. And this new addition to the Ministry of Local Government, Prime Minister and colleagues, will make us more efficient, more effective, and working with entities such as JSIF, we will realize the goal. It is a pleasure to be a part of this game-changing launch this morning. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister McKenzie. Really appreciate those words. It's so important that persons not only hear but act on what they're hearing. And let me tell you that for those who would like to, let me tell you who can apply. Groups of persons who are engaged in existing or new enterprises that are organized with their management and membership structure in place, MSMEs or legally established associations formed by micro and small farmers and fishers engaged in supplying agro-based products and services, and tourism producers, including artisans, making handcrafts, and service providers that meet the eligibility requirement. It is now time for us to move on and do more than just talk. We can become part of the process of change. A big part of that is just getting organized and accessing those services that are there for you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the man who was voted the main man in tourism worldwide, Mr. Ed Bartlett, will now speak with us. He's certainly done a fine job in tourism, and even though the pandemic is on, he's rethinking the engagement in terms of how Jamaica's tourism product can grow, and certainly Minister Bartlett has a lot to say. Minister.
Thank you very much, Naomi, Moderator and Press Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister. Our Prime Minister, Most Honourable Andrew Holness, my colleague Ministers McKenzie and Green, Mr. Ozan, Sevimli, Resident Representative in Jamaica of the World Bank, Dr. Wayne Henry, our Chairman of the JSIF, Mr. Omar Sweeney, the very effective Managing Director of JSIF, other guests, members of the media, and members of our virtual audience, good morning. In a very personal way, I am really delighted to be sharing in this very important event, marking the launch of the second phase of the Jamaica Social Investment Fund's Rural Economic Development Fund, REDI 2 program. Without fear of contradiction, I can say in its 24 years experience, JSIF has stood out as one of the best performing agencies of government across political administrations. And proof of this can be seen in just about every community across the country that they have participated in projects. I said personally earlier on because in reality, it is the people who I represent as Member of Parliament for East Central St. James who have been the main beneficiaries of the JSIF and World Bank and the EU involvement. Barretown, for instance, has been transformed from being a challenged community, always attracting negative public comments, into a community that residents are now proud to call home. You have seen the transformation yourself, Prime Minister, and also, Oran, you have been there. And furthermore, the people are anxious to showcase their community to tourists who vacation at nearby hotels. And that is going on even now. And I want to speak a minute about the impact of these small and medium tourism enterprises that are going to be the main beneficiary of REDI 2 in enabling a deeper experience of the visitor in communities, and more importantly, to tap into the rich, long, and elongated value chain of tourism. So, on the national scale, the tourism product has been benefiting from JSIF's community transformation programs, which have empowered young people in particular across several rural communities. Prime Minister, the Ministry of Tourism has had a long and fruitful relationship with JSIF in building out community tourism in rural areas throughout Jamaica. And I am pleased to note that today's launch of the Rural Economic Development Initiative, REDI 2, is taking place within our annual Tourism Awareness Week, which we are observing from Sunday the 27th of September to October 3, under the theme as at a glance I see that tourism will play a big part in REDI 2 in areas such as enhanced agriculture and tourism linkages, enhanced marketing of community tourism enterprises, diversified tourism offerings, allowing for expenditure and earnings within local communities. And I want to emphasize that in reimagining tourism in this COVID-19 period and post-COVID, our focus is now going to be heavily on building out 2 new destinations in rural Jamaica, St. Thomas and the areas of the South Coast that takes you into your favorite place, Oran, Treasure Beach. The impact of this is going to be phenomenal in terms of the transformation, because one of the values of tourism is its transformatory capacity to make small, unimportant, and almost unknown, sleepy little villages overnight becoming bustling areas of economic activity and employment and well-being. And we saw that in Ocho-Rios, because Ocho-Rios was a sleepy little fishing village 30 years, 40 years ago. Today is one of the bustling centers of economic activity and commerce. Montego Bay, Negril. We want to do the same now for St. Thomas and for the other areas of the South Coast. REDI 2 is offering an opportunity for us to empower the small and medium tourism enterprises to be able to provide the critical experiences that are going to define the new demand for tourism. It's going to do something else. In partnership with agriculture, as we have been doing, we are creating the capacity to supply against the demand of 40 billion Jamaican dollars of supplies that the industry needs. The demand study that we did showed that tourism provides a demand for some 40 billion Jamaican dollars of supplies from agriculture. But we're using technology also to enable a connectivity that hitherto never existed. RADA and ourselves developed the Alex platform, which now allows for small farmers in the deep rural areas to be able to connect directly to hotels, to offer supplies, to discuss arrangements for purchase and delivery. And in the COVID period, during the difficult moments, as Minister Green indicated, we were able to work through Alex to collect with supermarkets across the island. So this initiative that we have been engaged in will now be further enhanced by the 20 million that I'm advised is going to be allocated for this purpose. But we also want to take an advantage of that to tie into the requirements for COVID security, because our small and medium enterprises are particularly challenged in providing the social security and COVID security equipment that are required to enable full compliance. And so in that process, we are going to be working with you to not just provide now funding, as we're working with Exim Bank. As you're aware, we put $1 billion in Exim Bank for that purpose of lending to small and medium enterprises in rural Jamaica to enable them to supply against the demand of tourism. So now we're going to be able to make them COVID compliant by mixing this fund that you're providing with us with the lending arrangements that we have, so that that capacity will be there. I welcome this initiative. The Ministry of Tourism is a partner, a strong partner, and we look forward to making this a great success for all of the people of Jamaica. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister Bartlett. Really appreciate your kind words, and certainly, putting tourism at the center. It is the #1 foreign exchange earner, but certainly having several other sectors that will link with it and create strategic partnerships. REDI 1 was a success, and certainly we want to continue it. 22,000 Jamaicans participated and benefited from REDI 1. Well, here's a feature on the program.
Development Plan Vision 2030 Jamaica outlines several goals to empower all Jamaicans to reach their fullest potential. A key step in achieving this target is creating equal opportunities to make a living from our abundant resources. The Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JSIF, through the Rural Economic Development Initiative REDI, is doing just that by improving the earning potential of persons in rural areas operating in the agriculture and tourism sectors.
We want to improve the linkages of agriculture to tourism. We want to improve the ability of farmers to have climate resilient methodology. We want to improve the ability of community tourism enterprises to develop and become licensed to provide your services to our international guests.
With the support of a $40 million loan from the World Bank, REDI 2 starts in 2020.
We want to enhance the competitiveness of both sectors. So we want to link our producers into strategic value chains, linking them not just to domestic markets but also to exports.
REDI 2 will continue to build on partnerships with key government ministries, agencies and departments. These entities will receive technical assistance to improve their capacity to serve project beneficiaries. Cultivators depend on earning potential from farming to sustain themselves and their families. Lack of access to markets, climate change and unsustainable farming practices, however, continually threaten their livelihoods. REDI 2 will seek to address those issues.
As it relates to climate resilient approaches, it involves looking at the farming practices, integrating more environmentally sound or green technologies in production, as well as in terms of alternative power or energy sources.
Registered farmers who are members of a cooperative or benevolent society are encouraged to apply for support. The project will target vulnerable groups such as women, youth, and persons with disabilities.
The project helped us in finding market. We got the market through RADA.
It has improved my life in the sense that I'm not financially dependent on anyone. I'm my own boss, so I choose the times I work.
Jamaica's culture is like no other, and there is great potential for communities to share their experiences with the world through community tourism enterprises, CTEs.
Charlestown Maroon Council had received maximum aid or assistance from REDI 1 and is looking forward to move on to REDI 2.
Get more information on the project's benefits by contacting the Jamaica Social Investment Fund.
Well, there you have it. Certainly the impact that REDI 1 has made, and looking forward to making even a greater impact with the REDI 2. You know, Prime Minister, the Most Honourable Andrew Holness, has served Jamaica in this capacity as Prime Minister for 3 terms, 2 full terms and 1 piece, right, sir? So he really has been stressing the notion that we must improve not just lives, but livelihoods. And here is a practical example of a strategic approach that he has certainly championed in terms of ensuring that REDI 1 not just impacts by putting a program out there, but making a difference in people's lives and building capacity, and as well impacting their livelihood. So without further ado, may I invite the strategic thinker, the strategic leader, Prime Minister, the Most Honourable Andrew Holness, to address us.
Thank you, Naomi. Colleague members of the Cabinet, Minister Bartlett, Minister McKenzie, Minister Green. I'm looking for my permanent secretary. I'll still acknowledge her. No, I left on my mask deliberately to emphasize that the COVID protocols are still important. Permanent secretaries who are joining us virtually, Mr. Ozan Sevimli, Country Manager of the World Bank. I'm very impressed with your story of your adventure on the South Coast. Indeed, the South Coast is a lovely part of the country. It is, in my opinion, the next frontier for tourism development. And what you have just said, Minister Bartlett, you should put it in a small video clip, and maybe it could be used as part of your promotional content through the Jamaica Tourist Board, providing that Mr. Sevimli agrees. But just listening to you, were I not a Jamaican, I would want to find out how I could book a stay somewhere on the South Coast. Let me congratulate the World Bank on its support to Jamaica and developing countries in general, particularly during this time of crisis. And you made an important point that this program, it's not a grant. It is a loan program, but it is a special kind of loan program. It is development financing. The standard for success would not be profitability. It would be how we have transformed lives, how we would have moved persons from one state of existence to a better state of existence. And that is the business that you are in, and certainly that is the government's business, and the World Bank and Jamaica. We have partnered on many projects, developmental projects, which would have improved Jamaicans' lives and livelihoods. Dr. Wayne Henry, Chairman of the Social Investment Fund, and our Managing Director, Mr. Omar Sweeney, representatives of public and private sector entities that are joining us virtually, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all, good morning. I'm not used to speaking to half-empty rooms, or in this case, a quarter-filled room, but such it is under COVID protocols. There is something to be said for having a room filled with persons. It does give you a certain energy and motivation. But I'm getting used to it now, because for the last 6 months, this is how we have had to operate. I don't know how the persons who are joining us virtually feel, if they have that same spirit and enthusiasm. There's something to be said for being together in a group. So I'm going to try as much as possible to speak directly to you and to engage you, and to make it as much as possible that you are actually here with us in the room. So to our persons joining us on Zoom, I'm going to give a special shout out to you. Thank you for joining, particularly those who have opened their cameras so I can see them. I'm going to take it as a given that those who have not opened their cameras, that they are there and listening. Good to see you all. The second Rural Economic Development Initiative, REDI 2, funded by a $40 million loan from the World Bank, is being implemented by the Jamaica Social Investment Fund in the critical growth sectors of agriculture and tourism, which together account for some 18% of Jamaica's gross domestic product. Rural livelihoods are enhanced through effective participation in the management of their own social and economic and environmental objectives by empowering them. REDI is one such catalyst to empower persons in rural areas. In its initial phase, the REDI program created 1,300 jobs and contributed to growth of 17% in the agricultural sector in 2016, resulting in a reduction of $6 million in the country's food bill. It also financed the development of the National Community Tourism Policy and Strategy. The second phase of the REDI initiative represents a renewed focus on improving economies of scale for small and medium-sized enterprises involved in agriculture and community tourism, and mainstreaming climate resilience while enhancing market access for these businesses. Let me say that the objective of the government in this term is to enhance our growth prospects and to rapidly move the economy along the path of growth. In the last term, we focused heavily on dealing with deep institutional reforms, structural reforms, and setting the foundation for growth. That was indeed the objective of the Economic Growth Council. There is a sense that growth is something that you can achieve overnight. Growth is a very complex undertaking. Indeed, the thinking regarding economic growth is that the greater the complexity of your economy and production, it is the greater likelihood that you will have economic growth. And that complexity comes with knowledge, factors of production, labor, land, entrepreneurism, and capital. And how you mix all of those together determine how fast you will grow and the number of products that you are able to make. But there is an important element of that as well, and that is the role of government. What role does government play in ensuring that all the factors of production can work together seamlessly to create a diverse variety of products? The complexity of that, the difficulty of that, is to get your public sector to understand the role they play in ensuring that the factors of production can work seamlessly together. So the Economic Growth Council spent a great deal of time meeting with our permanent secretaries, meeting with our chief technical directors and all the technical people of the government involved in permitting, for example. How does permitting affect growth? Well, the factors of production can't come together and put together business plans and projects unless they get approvals where necessary from the government. So the permitting and approval process has an impact on growth. So it is for agriculture, for example. So it is for tourism. Minister, you want new rooms to be built? Well, you have to look at the environmental permitting. You have to look at the town and country planning. You have to look at how fast we get electricity. All of those rely in some way on how fast government works to get all these factors of production together. So it's not as simple as saying, well, we're all going to get together and grow. A large part of it is to change the mindset of the public sector to support the factors of production, which are mostly in the private sector, towards a growth orientation, towards a growth outlook. So in our last term, we spent a lot of time trying to change the mindset of the public sector towards a growth posture, meaning let us improve the ease of doing business for the private sector. And there are many complexities in that, social complexities, all kinds of issues, which I'm not going to unravel today. But I believe that there is now an improved posture of the public sector towards enabling and assisting and facilitating the private sector to be able to have the factors of production work seamlessly together. And that's an important element, still work to be done, but I believe that the work of the Economic Growth Council would have contributed significantly to changing the mindset. certainly of the senior leaders in the public sector. Now we have to get to another granular level, because the growth equation also requires us to make markets. So the challenge is we have farmers in St. Elizabeth and we have hotels in St. James. And the hotels in St. James, they have tourists coming in, and we have to provide food for them today, not next week. And we have to be able to provide every day on a consistent schedule. But the farmers in St. Elizabeth, they don't have water consistently. There are climate change issues that deal with the rainfall patterns, which can change at any time and can affect their output. They don't have technology, and the technology issue is a serious one, because it is not that technology doesn't exist. It is not that technology isn't affordable. There is also the socio-cultural. Why should I use this when I've been doing this for whenever? And why should I go through all this problem to change how I've been farming, to go and change an entire ecosystem for the technology to work? And then there's the issue of having planted, and I turn my back, and by the time I look around, what I planted is gone. And you begin to see the complexity of just bringing together all the factors so that we achieve growth. What REDI is, to place it in context, the REDI program helps to create the market ecosystem. We're being market makers now, of trying to ensure that the farmers have the technology that is climate resilient and support greener productive practices. It deals with training as well, gives some financial support where possible, and it helps tourism. And another important part of it is that it deals with the asymmetry in information. It will help to ensure that you have information in the market so farmers know what is the demand of the tourism sector, so they know what to plant, so they can plan. And these are granular things which we don't bring these things to public light. We don't explain them to the public so the public understands how it is that we get growth. But this is what the government does every day. We look at the granular issues that affect how the factors of production work together seamlessly. And in the Jamaican context, the problem with our economy and society is that our factors don't work together seamlessly, whether it is because of institutional issues or sociocultural issues or government and management issues or technological issues. And the role of the government is to put in place projects like REDI to correct the ecosystem so that the factors of production can work together seamlessly. Once we have cracked that, then we will start to see economic growth. By the way, it was the same approach that we took with working with the IMF to deal with our fiscal issues, where we had to go in a granular way, focusing on legislation, focusing on how the Ministry of Finance operates, focusing on how the permanent secretaries do budgeting, that we have now reached a consensus as to how we manage our fiscal affairs. Now we have to go in a granular way to literally hold hands of farmers and people who operate tourism industries and link them together and create an ecosystem around them so that production can happen very quickly. And this is how I see the REDI 2 project in its broadest sense. So it's a project that I endorse wholeheartedly. And the other dimension of this project, which I want to emphasize because it is aligned with the direction of the government, yes, we want growth. And what we have managed to achieve, if you noted carefully, when we in our last administration, we created a Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. We didn't assume that out of growth you will have jobs. We took the view that you could create jobs and have economic growth, but you could also have jobs and not have significant growth. And so we pursued job creation. But to have job creation being sustainable, and we did an excellent job in creating jobs in the last administration. But we now need to make that sustainable. And with the effect of the pandemic, obviously, industries have been affected. The drivers of employment have been affected. Tourism and the BPO sector and the resurging manufacturing sector, they've all been affected. The quick service industry has also been affected. So it will have an impact on the jobs that we have created. But economic growth requires the creation of new products and greater volumes of those products and greater trade in those products. And so we spent the last term setting the foundation to do that. This term now, we have to shift our focus to the microeconomics of growth, dealing with how the markets actually operate, the signaling and incentives to get people to go into the areas that are productive and that will bring the necessary economic return. So the REDI 2 program is important, very important in that regard. But another element of the government's thrust, which we have put together this time, is rural development. And so you will notice that in the formation of the cabinet, there is a ministry that is dealing with urban issues, and now we have a ministry that will deal with rural issues. And in the campaign, I wasn't able to move about unrestricted. I wasn't able to go and hug up all the people I used to, and I really missed that, but we had to maintain the protocol. But standing in my vehicle through my sunroof, I was able to interact at a safe distance. And there was a young man there, and he kept running alongside the vehicle, and he said, and this was in St. Elizabeth actually, and I see Minister Green nodding because you witnessed it. And he was saying to me, Mr. Holness, when you win, remember, we want a call center. We want a BPO operation. Obviously, we're talking about agriculture and tourism. But what he was saying is that in rural areas, we tend to only believe that it's agriculture that is the only economic activity in those areas. But he wanted to be a part of the tech city because he heard us say that we intend to create a tech city in Portmore and create that area as the Silicon Valley of the Caribbean eventually. And he was saying, yeah, but my area in St. Elizabeth, remind me of the area, Floyd. It was in near Black River, just outside of Black River. But that's essentially what he was trying to communicate, because he twinned the BPO sector with technology, and he was saying, we bring technology, bring internet, bring broadband. And he literally said that we have to sort out the broadband and internet issues in those areas. It was very profound, very profound. So I want to assure persons who are living in rural area that the classification of being in a rural area it's not derogatory. Rural, urban, from a government perspective, both have a significant economic contribution to make, and the objective of the government is to help you to unlock the economic potential that exists. Both are needed for a well-rounded development of our society. So the government is not going to be exclusively focusing on agriculture for rural development. Certainly our program to bring broadband will be heavily rural focused, because we have to put the broadband network into to rural areas. We have to complete the access to electricity as well. So these are areas that we will be working through the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development to achieve. But certainly, as it was described as the sleeping giant by Ozan, which is a description that I cannot argue with. Agriculture is the sleeping giant. And in our last administration, you would also see an attempt at bringing together the factors of production to support agriculture by pairing the Ministry of Investment and Industry and Commerce with the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries. In this dispensation, we have decided to have direct and sole focus by the Minister on agriculture. And next week, I will be sending to the Minister his work schedule. I use that term deliberately. So yes, it is his mandate letter to say these are the things that need to be done, but it will also have a synchronization and a prioritization of things that need to get done and the schedule by which they need to get done. And I'll be holding him to that, as I will be for all ministers in the cabinet. They will all get their specific mandate letters and their work schedules, because in this term, we must start to see real growth. We are seeing the sprouts, the little shoots, but now they have to grow and bear fruit. And Minister Floyd Green has been given that task to really drive agriculture, to modernize agriculture, to bring entrepreneurism and capital to agriculture, and to make agriculture a strong growth driver for Jamaica. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, let me say how happy I am for the second dispensation of this program, and I know that it will help to improve lives and livelihoods.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister, for your presentation, and certainly encouraging all those to participate in REDI 2. And ladies and gentlemen, as I promised, we would have had a short function this morning, 1 hour and 15 minutes. The Prime Minister's presentation ends certainly our formal greeting here. No, the Prime Minister has asked for clarification. His was not an hour and 15 minutes. The entire proceedings took an hour and 15 minutes. Thank you all for your brevity in this regard. And certainly in the virtual space, we look to ensure that we are efficient in terms of time. So thank you, everyone who's joining online. Certainly, we've had approximately 70 persons on Zoom, and we have hundreds on social media who viewed it. Let me just remind those who are interested in applying, you may apply through www, that's 3 W's, some people say 2, it's really 3 W's, www.jsif.org. Or you may visit your RADA parish offices, TPD co-regional offices, or your SDC offices to apply. Certainly, the success of REDI 1 will inure to the success of REDI 2 once we work and put our hands and hearts to it. May I thank everyone who's on the Zoom for joining us. I see a group there gathered together, and certainly they're also showing back the video from the REDI 1 success. And 2, for those who are joining on social media, thank you all, everyone, and have a wonderful and productive day. Good morning.
And departments. These entities will receive technical assistance to improve their capacity to serve project beneficiaries. Cultivators depend on earning potential from farming to sustain themselves and their families. Lack of access to markets, climate change, and unsustainable farming practices, however, continually threaten their livelihoods. REDI 2 will seek to address those issues.
As it relates to climate resilient approaches, it involves looking at the farming practices, integrating more environmentally sound or green technologies in production, as well as in terms of alternative power or energy sources.
Registered farmers who are members of a cooperative or benevolent society are encouraged to apply for support. The project will target vulnerable groups such as women, youth, and persons with disabilities.
The project helped us in finding market. We got the market through RADA.
It has improved my life in the sense that I'm not financially dependent on anyone. I'm my own boss, so I choose the times I work.
Jamaica's culture is like no other, and there is great potential for communities to share their experiences with the world through community tourism enterprises, CTEs.
Charlestown Maroon Council had received maximum aid or assistance from REDI 1 and is looking forward to move on to REDI 2.
Get more information on the project's benefits by contacting the Jamaica Social Investment Fund.